Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is my review of the 2010 action film Wrong Side of Town. Now, I wasn't expecting much from this film. It's a low budget, direct to video movie starring a bunch of wrestlers who are making their acting debuts. And directed by the guy who gave us The Backlot Murders with Corey Haim. So I wasn't really expecting uh a ton. I wasn't expecting the world from this. I just wanted to have some dumb fun with it and get some decent action. And it could not provide either of those things. This wasn't fun to watch, and there was barely any action. And what action was there? It was atrocious. It was atrocious action, and it was just honestly, it was an awful movie. Now, before I get around to sharing more of my thoughts on Wrong Side of Town, I want to give a special shout out yet again to Brock for requesting this particular review. And if there's another film, TV show, or topic that you would like to see me discuss in the future, feel free to donate to either my PayPal or to my Patreon. Link to both is in the video description down below, and I will try to get your request as soon as I possibly can. Now, Wrong Side of Town is directed and written by David DeFalco. And if that name sounds familiar to you, it's because that's the Dark Force guy. That's the guy behind Dark Force Entertainment. He's the one that was like threatening people and doing live streams and talking about fighting people in the cage. Like, that's David DeFalco. That's the same David DeFalco. Prior to this, he made his directorial debut with The Backlot Murders, a brutally bad movie starring Corey Haim. It was the last film Corey Haim did before he decided to quit acting until he had a cameo in Lost Boys. Was it The Thirst? I think it was I think he had a cameo in that one. Because I don't think he was in the tribe. It might have been the tribe actually, but I don't know. It's been a while since I've seen the Lost Boys sequels, so I'm not entirely sure. But anyway, that was like the last film that Corey Haim did until he was like uh, sober, at least for a time, and then did another did a cameo in a Lost Boys sequel. And then after that, he did a really shitty, shot on shitty-o ripoff of The Last House on the Left called Chaos. And then he did this. And this was the last film that he directed. And for good reason, or good riddance, because this guy sucks. And this is such a poorly directed film. There are fight scenes in this with Rob Van Dam or Bautista, but they're shot in ways that completely take you out of the fight. They're shot in ways that are just weird and off and don't make a whole lot of sense for a fight scene. Like, why aren't you showing the punches land? Why aren't you showing the point of view of the protagonist or Rob Van Dam in this instance kicking some ass? Like, just these really just lazy shots in terms of just shooting almost everything in a medium shot and never really going anywhere or doing anything beyond that, except maybe like one zoom or maybe a pan up or two. Like, just really bad directing just makes the film look immeasurably more cheap than it already is, and really weird and just strange framing as well when it comes to certain shots. This is just incompetent. Just total incompetence on display here by David DeFalco. Um, and he doesn't really get a whole lot out of his cast either. Yeah, a lot of the actors here aren't really that great, but I think they are also done a serious disservice by DeFalco because he can't seem to like get anything more out of them or see that a take went bad and have them do it again. Or maybe he doesn't have time for that because maybe it's one of those movies that was such a low budget affair that they shot it in like 30 days or some shit. I have no idea what the backstory, the history of this movie is, but all I can say is from what I've seen with this direction, it's not dynamic, it's not skilled, and it's terrible. It's a terrible film, and this direction is an absolute turd. And I'm glad David DeFalco is not shitting on the screen anymore with his shitty directing. The direction is pretty rank, but honestly, I feel the writing by David DeFalco is even smellier. Like it's the kind of writing that's so bad that it just completely drops a stink bomb. And he pulls a double decker here with his script. You have a shit ton of cliches, and that would be okay if the action was fun or inventive or exciting, but it's not. So what he does here is he does the typical thing where you have a former Navy SEAL who is retired, and he winds up having to get brought out of retirement because of some sort of circumstance. And the circumstance here is that his wife is sexually assaulted by this fuck up jerk off brother of this crime boss named Seth, who owns this club that this Navy SEAL Bobby and his wife Dawn were invited to by their neighbors Clay and Elise. And so they go to this club. Seems like everything's going well, but the wife leaves, and then she gets accosted and essentially taken by this brother of Seth, Ethan, who then takes her to this back room, tries to sexually assault her, and then Rob Van Dam, his character, the ex Navy SEAL Bobby, hears his wife, goes into the back room, throws the guy off his wife, and then the guy pulls out a knife, trips and falls, and winds up stabbing himself with a knife to death. But because of the fact that this guy's brother is this really big, influential crime boss, he puts a bounty on Bobby's head of $100,000. And Bobby is unable to receive help from the law uh, because Seth has this cop named Clay who's on his payroll. And so what happens next is just a really piss poor version of the Warriors or Judgment Night, where Rob Van Dam and his wife and his neighbors, they have to try to stay one step ahead of these gangs who are trying to kill them. So you have a motorcycle gang, you have a gang of African Americans who look like they're straight out of a rap video. Then you have um, another biker gang. Like, there's no variety to the gangs, like something like the Warriors. It's just generic, just lame, been there, done that, typical thugs and criminals. And after a certain point, he can't do it alone. So he winds up trying to recruit his friend from the service, from the Navy SEALs, and Big Ronnie, played by Bautista, to help him out, but he sells him out initially, but then he changes his mind and then decides to help him, and then intermittently appears throughout like the last half of the movie to help him out against this onslaught of gang members, which a lot of them are just fat out of shape bikers, by the way, including the guy who was one of the fat out of shape bikers in 21 Jump Street. This actor named Randal Reeder, who is also in the Deadpool films as Buck, and he was also Big Bob in Harold and Kumar Escape from Guantanamo Bay. So that's one of your main henchmen for uh, 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 this big time crime boss and Seth Bordas. And by the way, the movie opens up not even with any sort of introduction to anyone important to the plot. It just opens up with Seth Bordas killing this random guy and throwing him off a bridge. Why it opened up that way, I have no idea. Oh, and speaking of, I can't believe I almost forgot this. The movie opens up with a 007 inspired opening credits sequence that has to be seen to be believed. Like this opening credits is like 007 on a budget of 7 cents. It's embarrassing. It is so bad and it doesn't fit the tone of the movie at all. This is not a secret agent movie. It's just a really shitty cheap version of the Warriors with Rob Van Dam and Bautista in a small cameo. And so, of course, what happens is the bad guy, he won't let shit slide. The dirty cop winds up helping in the end, but all that leads to him getting is a bullet in his chest for all his trouble. And the boss, the crime boss, Seth, he's just not willing to let it go, and so a bunch of his men are getting killed, and he decides to kidnap Bobby's daughter, and so now Bobby has to suit up and then go and get his daughter back, and Batista helps him a little bit, and eventually the crime boss gets killed. I think there's a moment where he's willing to just kind of walk away, but of course he tries to cheat, and then it winds up causing him to uh, get a. I'm trying to remember exactly how he got killed. Oh yeah, he just winds up getting his neck broken uh, by uh, um by Bobby, and there is action, but when it is there, which isn't as much as you think, because a lot of it is just them running around and just trying to stay one step ahead of these gangs. When the action is there, it's pathetic. It's not at all anything that is particularly that engaging. It's just boring. It's such a boring movie. Yeah, it's a rant, but like it's not the kind of film that I'm super heated about because it's so boring and forgettable. Like there's entire sequences that are just really not needed. You don't need a whole scene of Bobby taking a bullet out of his shoulder and bandaging himself up in the mirror. You don't need that. It's not needed. But it's there because we have to have padding because David DeFalco is a shitty writer. And he doesn't know how to really pad out his script with anything other than weak amounts of padding. Like padding in a script is okay with the proper context and with some skill applied. That's not the case here. The padding just feels like it's completely and totally unnecessary, and it just makes this very thin plot even more obvious when it comes to how thin it is. And like I said, there's not a lot of action. When it is there, it sucks. The characterization is not good. Like, I'm supposed to believe that Rob Van Dam is a architectural designer now? Really? And the lines are really cringe, or they are just incredibly weak and really limp in terms of all their line delivery as well as the writing. And I saw a review that mentioned this is like some bad high school project that nobody really wanted to be a part of. And that honestly is a great way to describe this film and this entire script. It's a screenplay that exists, but in spite of itself. It's that kind of thing. And it ends in typical fashion, very in a very predictable way. And but there's also like there's other stuff too that's not as predictable, but for a good reason. Like there's a fight scene with this guy and Bautista, and the guy at one point during the fight just leaves. So then he can show up later and get his ass kicked by Rob Van Dam. And I'm like, what was even the fucking point of that? And why would that guy do that? Why would he be like, "Oh, I'm gonna show up and I'm gonna fight Batista, but oh no, Batista's too strong for me. I'm gonna go away. I'm gonna run off like a little bitch, and then I'm gonna come back later. I'm gonna try to sucker punch Rob Van Dam, and then get my ass kicked." Like I don't. What kind of writing is that? And this guy was like set up to be the right hand man, the heavy, the guy who really means business and isn't the comic relief henchman like the two fat bikers were for Seth. And of course, there's also a dumb twist, and it's a twist that really doesn't add anything to the movie. It's a whole bunch of, oh, okay, oh, Ethan wasn't my brother. He was my son. So who gives a shit? The guy's still a dipshit and a fuck up. Whether he's your brother or your son, like, it doesn't seem like that guy really added much to this world. And like, if it was something like John Wick where it had really good action in it, then I would be like, all right, okay. But it's not. So there's a lot of stuff involving the motivation of these characters, especially the villains, that's very weak. And there's other stuff too that's really like eye rolling. Like there's a whole scene where the daughter that's been kidnapped fakes that she needs to take a piss, escapes from her bonds for a second and runs off, and then immediately gets captured again. It's like, what was even the fucking point of that? Like she kicks a fat guy in the balls and then runs off and immediately runs into some other bad guys. It's like you didn't know that those guys were there the entire time? You just now realized that these guys were there and then ran into them? Or they just coincidentally or conveniently showed up at that moment when you were trying to run away? How about this other moment earlier where Rob Van Dam and his wife and his neighbors, they're getting held at gunpoint by the gang that looks like they're straight out of a rap video, and he manages to trick them by saying he has diamonds in his socks, and they buy it, and then they try to go and look for the diamonds, and then he punches one guy and takes the gun. So all of the bad guys in this are written in just stupid ways. There's dumb, they're foolish, and the lead villain isn't much better either, and Seth Bordas. So nobody winds up coming across as intimidating or a worthwhile foe to Rob Van Dam or Batista. And Batista's character is barely even in the movie. And the advertisements and the posters, they heavily promoted Bautista, and he's only in it for like maybe 5 minutes, if even that. His character doesn't even show up until 47 minutes into the movie. I don't know why this wasn't just a simpler movie. Like, it's trying to be a simple movie, with the Warriors angle or the Judgment Night angle, with the bounty that's being put on Bobby's head. It's also trying to be needlessly complex with the stupid twist involving Ethan and the dirty cop and all of that other shit. Like, cut out the dirty cop, cut out the stupid twist about it was my son, and don't even do the whole thing where he kidnaps the daughter at that point. Have him kidnap the daughter earlier, and just or she's there during the night, and then she winds up getting taken by the bad guys, and then it's just Rob Van Dam and Batista, their characters teaming up, kicking ass, and taking names like it's bad guys on the NES, and just taking out bad guys right and left like it's a side scroller going from one part of the city or to the next in the middle of the night, encountering all these different bad guys that this rich mob boss has hired. And you could play around with it and just have all kinds of crazy bad guys that don't even necessarily make sense. But he's a rich mob boss, so somehow he managed to fly in a gang of ninjas, and then have like Rob Van Dam and Batista look at this like, really? Fucking ninjas? Like something like that. That would have been fun, but no. No, there's no fun to be had here. No fun allowed. Just boredom. And if that isn't bad enough, like I understand it's a cheap direct-to-video, low-budget movie, but god damn, man, the acting is really fucking bad. And especially from Rob Van Dam. Rob Van Dam, he has one gear in this, and the gear is just neutral. Like he's not like going forward, guns a-blazing, he's not full of energy, he's not going full gear, just neutral. His line delivery is flat. He he has none of his charisma that he shows in some of his promos or in the ring. It doesn't help either that a lot of the time his character's just limping around. So okay, you have Rob Van Dam and you're just like, yeah, RVD's here, Rob Van Dam, and he's just limping around because he got shot in the leg early on in the movie. Why? Was he hurt? I don't know. It just seems like a waste of his talents and his ability. And Rob Van Dam, he's a pretty damn bad actor. Like he's not good. He's not good in this. He's not good in Sniper Special Ops with Steven Seagal. He's not good in Time Toys. He's not good in anything. I mean, honestly, he's a really bad actor. He's like one of the worst wrestlers turned actors that I can think of. He's just terrible. He has no on-screen presence or charisma. He just sounds like he's either high or drunk or both. Like it's just a bad performance all the way around. And just another reason why this film sucks. Then you have Batista, and he said that he was so embarrassed by how bad his acting was in this that he hired an acting coach and decided to take acting more seriously, and that led to him getting Drax and Guardians of the Galaxy, and his whole career trajectory changed. And if that's true, good on Batista. But in all honesty, his acting isn't that bad in this for the kind of movie that it is. Like he actually has some charisma, he has some charm. He's not snoring through his lines. Um, he actually did okay, in my opinion. So honestly, he did a good enough job that I felt like he should have been the lead and Rob Van Dam the sidekick. That probably would have helped. But as it is, Yeah, he definitely can't save this, but his performance wasn't bad. I don't think he was that bad in this. He was fine. Um, the rest of the cast, though, I mean, Laura Grice is Dawn, Rob Van Dam's wife. Just not really a very sterling performance. Edric Brown is Clay. Ava Santana is Elise. The neighbors also pretty bad. Stormy Daniels as herself. Stormy. I can't really say much about the performance because I don't even remember her saying any lines. Like she was just there. I think she said like maybe one line or two. You got Randal Reeder as Trouble. Just the same shit he does and everything, playing a fat, tough biker dude. Jerry Katz is Seth Bordis, laughable. Like, what the hell is this guy doing being a crime boss? This is the type of guy you would see shilling for his car dealership on local TV, not the guy who's a crime boss. Um, you got Brooke Frost as Brianna, Bobby's daughter. Pretty pretty bad, pretty rough performance by her, especially her line delivery. Ja Rule in his one scene definitely did not rule. Neither did Big Daddy V. The V might as well stand for vagina because his character was one big pussy in this movie. David DeFalco fucking sucked as Demon. Omarion gets a 0 as Stash. Just not a good cast other than Bautista. Like everyone else sucked. It's like the wrong side of almost everything. The cinematography is really ugly and cheap. The editing by Andrew Drazak, Ezra Gold, and Donald Ray Washington. It seemed like they were on the wrong side of the editing machine every time they decided to edit anything, especially any of the fight scenes or any of the action in this. The music by Jim Kaufman, it's so bad it makes me want to cough. I can just feel my throat getting irritated right now that I'm just talking about this score because it was just so repetitive. It was the same few beats just repeated over and over and over again. I hate those scores. It's the laziest shit ever. It's 88 minutes, but like it feels like 188 because there's no reason to care about these characters. You don't get much depth. If they had personality, or if there was fun lines of dialogue, or if they were doing things that were cool instead of just running around and trying to not get killed, um, that would be one thing. But that's not what you get. And the villains suck too, so you don't get fun villains. So there isn't fun. It's not fun. It's honestly in a lot of ways, you know, like getting up on the wrong side of bed in the morning. Like you get up, you're like, oh God, I really did not have a good night's sleep last night. Your head is pounding. You feel like shit, and you're like, oh God, like why did I do that? Like that's what it's like after watching The Wrong Side of Town. But anyway, thanks for watching my rant on the film, and until next time, I'll see you later. See ya.